Everything changed the night Julia and Brandon stood in that airport, trying to balance two lives inside a couple of suitcases. Their faces pulled tight, not from jet lag, but from a year of impossible choices. If you think moving countries for love is romantic, ask yourself if you'd be willing to burn your entire past down for someone you barely met a few years ago online. That's what happened here. These two aren't textbook soulmates. They're not even sure they believe in fairy tales anymore. What they are is desperate to escape, desperate to start fresh, desperate to prove the world wrong. But when you leave home with this many secrets and ultimatums, you don't just find freedom at baggage claim. You bring chaos in your carry-on. Here's the million-dollar question. Would you sacrifice every dollar in your bank account, the comfort of your father's house, and the security of your hometown, all because your mother threw down the harshest line a parent can throw: divorce your spouse or lose me forever? These are not hypothetical standoffs. Julia and Brandon weren't playing. In their world, family feuds mean sell the farm and start over, no matter how many people you disappoint. But here's the part nobody expected. Underneath all those Facebook rants, behind the fake Instagram smiles, there's a twist waiting to explode. The real betrayal wasn't what happened in Virginia, or even what happened in Canada. The most shocking secret was hiding in plain sight, and even the people closest to them never saw it coming. If you think drama ends at customs, think again. What comes next is bigger and messier than any TLC plot twist, because when these two said goodbye to America, they had no clue the biggest battle was just about to take off. Keep watching, because the real heartbreak, the real fight, and the real fallout, all of that is still to come. Trust me, there's a reason nobody who's watched this story has ever looked away mid-episode. And if you think you know where their loyalty lies, hold that thought, because the reckoning isn't over yet. Nobody signs up for 90-day Fiancé thinking their future looks like this. Julia used to dream of glittering city lights, the energy of American streets, maybe even a big wedding with a little drama on the side. Nothing prepared her for life in rural Virginia, stuck on a farm, at the mercy of her in-laws, eating dinner under Betty's suspicious glare. The thing is, Julia didn't move for farm chores or small-town gossip. She moved for Brandon, the definition of a nice guy with a painful talent for dodging every awkward conversation. But nice doesn't cut it when your mom issues rules like an overzealous warden. No sleeping together before marriage. No late-night TV. No decisions without Betty's stamp of approval. It's one thing to adjust to a new country. It's another to realize your new family thinks you're an invader. Everything in that house felt like a test for Julia. Don't get too close. Don't get too loud. Don't expect privacy, and above all, don't question why you're expected to help feed the animals before you've even finished your morning coffee. Now, imagine the tension when two people who barely know how to pick their own furniture are living with a mother-in-law who rearranges their lives daily. Brandon lives in the shadow like a man allergic to confrontation, hoping Julia and his mom would work it out on their own. As if quiet compliance would magically make things better. Every episode felt like someone walking on eggshells, and nobody ever thought to wear shoes. Then came the family meetings, the side glances, the ultimatums disguised as pleas, like Betty cornering Brandon. Divorce her or lose your place in this family. People joke about monster-in-laws, but this was on a different level, and neither Julia nor Brandon seemed ready to play the villain. If you're thinking Julia ran for the camera, hoping to look spicy for the audience, the real joke's on you. Those tears weren't for show. Watching her realize that no matter how hard she tried, she'd never be enough for this family was like watching someone try to outdance quicksand. Whenever she stood up for herself, she turned into public enemy number one, accused of controlling Brandon or brainwashing him against his parents. But staying quiet meant living like a prisoner in her new house, but still not a home. Fast forward to the final fuse, when the air was so thick with tension that all it took was Betty's last threat to blow everything up. Brandon, forever apologizing to his mom, finds out the price of peace is $3 million. Sell the house, sell the farm, pack every memory into cardboard boxes, and announce to millions of fans and even more haters that they're cashing out, heading for Canada, and stepping away from the show. Their public farewell drops online, shattering whatever was left of family unity. Betty's not crying in the kitchen. She's torching bridges with gasoline. Brandon packs up more than furniture. He packs up a lifetime of guilt, regret, and leftover resentment, because you can't really say goodbye when half of you is still stuck in the dining room, hoping your mother will call. The comment sections erupt. Some fans call them legends for taking a stand. Others demand an apology for breaking up the family. Nobody's neutral. Julia posts a picture of her holding the keys to her freedom, smiling, but the video of Brandon staring at his feet says more than any caption. TLC fades from their lives, but the spotlight never dims. Brandon's face, somewhere between relief and trauma, says everything you need to know. Julia likes to joke that her accent is the hardest thing to change, but the truth is, it's impossible to lose the baggage when you've never even finished unpacking. At first glance, Canada looks like a new chapter, clean slate, new city, no Betty. But even an ocean can't wash away what happened in Virginia. Keep watching, because what happens after they leave is more scandalous than any TLC script. Canada seems like a happy ending, but the nightmare was stowed in their luggage. Fresh off the plane, Julia is high on the buzz of finally landing somewhere that doesn't reek of barnyard drama or decades-old grudges. The second she glances out the taxi window and sees city lights, she's already plotting her next big act. Where most people need weeks to recover from detonating their entire life, Julia jumps in headfirst. She scrolls through Instagram, hunts for dance studios, and imagines the version of herself she wants to show this new world. Vancouver is cold, but the promise of a blank slate is electric. Julia feels reborn, like she's breaking free of chains, and every new post is a manifesto. Look at me now, not even Betty can stop this. But no matter how much she texts her followers or flirts with new routines in front of frosted condo windows, one thing follows her. She's not just running toward a dream, she's running from a shadow, Brandon's. At first, he tries to fake the enthusiasm. He even manages a smile when Julia drags him to tour apartments. But the spark has dimmed. Every echo of his mother's parting words rings in his ears, growing louder with each job rejection. Brandon tries to hide it, but city life makes him feel smaller, not bigger.
No caos.
No dawn chores to fill the silence. Nothing to do but stare out at the water and wonder why he feels so far from everything he cares about. Meanwhile, Julia is on a quest to be seen. After years of being the outsider, labeled as the troublemaker or the ambitious one, she's done being small. She wants to shed every trace of the farm wife label. Within a month, she's filming dance videos with city skylines, auditioning for workshops, and networking with every influencer that responds. Fans see her as the girl who survived the monster-in-law, the one with enough guts to start over mid-pandemic, mid-crisis, mid-scandal. Her posts start trending. Women message her, grateful for someone finally telling their MIL horror stories without sugarcoating. And when one of her dance clips goes viral, racking up more views in a week than Brandon's entire social presence gets in a year, she tastes what she's craved since episode 1. Validation. Every comment, every DM telling her, "You're such a queen," and finally, real happiness. It feeds her belief she did the right thing, regardless of who she had to hurt to get here. Problem is, social media fame is a one-way ticket to loneliness if the person next to you can't keep up. Brandon sees Julia's popularity and feels invisible. He used to be the safe haven. Now he's the side character. In Virginia, he understood his role, even if it was toxic. Here, he's watching a new world grow around him, and he's not invited. He applies for anything remotely familiar, from city farm gigs to retail work, but nothing sticks. Every sorry, not enough local experience chips away at whatever pride he had left. Even Julia's pep talks feel like reminders that he's not moving fast enough, not blooming like she is. The mood inside their condo swings with Julia's followers count and Brandon's patience. A new argument seems to arrive with every career milestone Julia hits. Nights are quieter. Julia crashes on the couch after dance classes, scrolling through DMs, chasing her next collaboration. Brandon finds reasons to stay out, walking blocks he still can't navigate without Google Maps. Each is convinced the other has no idea how hard this fresh start feels, but neither admits it out loud. While Julia is riding the wave of newfound independence, Brandon spirals deeper into self-doubt. He wants to be happy for her, but it feels like every win Julia scores is another reminder of what he's left behind. Brandon begins to suspect he wasn't built for this kind of reinvention. He misses simplicity, even the dysfunctional routines of farm life. You'd think freedom would taste sweet, but for him, it's bitter, a constant reminder that maybe he's the only one mourning the old life. Online, the split in public opinion gets even sharper. Some praise Julia for reclaiming her future, framing her as a hero for standing up to a matriarch and a culture that wanted her to fold. Others hold grudges on Betty's behalf, posting that Julia is self-obsessed or that she destroyed a family for personal gain. The hate mail stings, but the support stings more for Brandon, because it sounds like everyone agrees he's the sacrifice. Julia gets clout for surviving, while he gets memes for brooding beside the window. Brandon starts to retreat, sinking deeper into isolation. Old friends drift away, their calls getting shorter. Family is practically off limits, especially his mother, who acts as if he's already dead to her. The only person still willing to talk is his dad, who says things like, "Son, you can always come back. There's always room at the table." Brandon hears it as equal parts comfort and a test. Would he take that offer? Would Julia let him? Or would going back mean admitting everything they fought for was a mistake? Tension builds each time Brandon and Julia try to discuss the future. Julia wants to launch a business, her own studio, her name in lights. Brandon hesitates, worried their $3 million safety net will disappear. He worries her dreams will cost them everything. Julia gets frustrated, arguing that money is for building, not hiding. The old roles of peacemaker and dreamer clash harder than ever. She tries to pull Brandon along, pitching ideas for him to teach farm-strong fitness, mixing his country's strength into city classes. Brandon feels pitted, not inspired. You'd think that living in a city full of possibilities would bring them closer, but the opposite happens. Julia thrives in the chaos, while Brandon shrinks away, feeling more irrelevant by the day. She spends late nights planning, filming, posting, always hungry for a bigger break. He spends late nights with old photos, scrolling through memories like he's trying to rewind time. Neither one sees how fast the gap between them is growing until it's too late. Their apartment turns chilly, not just from the Canadian winter, but from all the issues left undiscussed. Julia begins staying out later, soaking up applause and seeking out anyone who'll confirm her choices. Brandon starts having long walks alone, weighing if the price of freedom is worth the emptiness. They're miles apart, even sitting on opposite ends of the same couch. Meanwhile, in the online world, the debate rages. Every Julia win gets hate from someone who thinks she ruined everything. Every time Brandon appears in her photos, fans guess if he's checked out. The more she succeeds, the more isolated he feels. Comment wars break out between Team Julia's independence and Team Bring Back the Old Brandon, with neither side admitting the real point. Nobody but them knows what it costs to keep pretending things are fine. One night, Julia drops news of a message from a familiar handle. Brandon's mother has found a way back into the conversation. Suddenly, the couple's new boundaries aren't holding up. Old family wounds leak across the border, forcing both to question if cutting ties meant cutting away their last safety net. Things start to unravel faster than Julia can spin a positive social media post. Fans gush about her new business, while Brandon feels every step outside is quicksand. Instead of sharing success, they're living parallel lives, each silently counting up what they've lost. Brandon, tired of waiting to feel seen, is about to do the unimaginable, stop running, stop pleasing, and confront the reality nobody wanted to admit. People assume Julia has everything she ever wanted, but by the end of a long, cold winter, the truth comes to light. The winning side isn't clear, because the next move belongs to Brandon, and nobody's forgotten what he left behind to get here. It wouldn't be a modern love story if the internet didn't have its claws in it. The minute Julia and Brandon post their first puffy jacket photo on Canadian soil, comments pour in faster than airport announcements. Some people can't get enough. Hail them as couple goals, proof that you can break free from drama and live on your own terms. Others sharpen their claws. Julia changed him, they say. He was happier before. The fandom splits clean down the middle, no fence-sitters allowed. Julia's posts become playgrounds for petty wars. Every dance video is dissected, every rare Brandon appearance is scrutinized for clues, smiling or suffering, supporting or hostage. Julia seems to feed off the energy, even the critics. She reposts edits, answers a few nasty messages with snappy comebacks, and starts using the phrase rebirth in every story and caption. Suddenly, it's not just about surviving a controlling in-law or going viral with a TikTok dance. It's about refusing to be anyone's victim. Her followers keep rising, so does her confidence. But there's an uncomfortable echo behind the applause. Is this ambition? Or is it revenge? The digital peanut gallery isn't shy. They accuse her of manipulating Brandon, of dragging him into a flashy, fast-paced life he never signed up for. She found herself and lost her husband. One comment reads, with 300 likes and counting. Meanwhile, the other side of the internet, old friends from Virginia, family acquaintances, even former fans, jump in to defend Brandon. Their posts lean hard into nostalgia. Photos of him as a kid, throwbacks of family holidays, everyone reminiscing about the old Brandon before fame turned everything upside down. A couple of Facebook groups even start low-stakes campaigns. Bring Brandon home. It sounds like a joke, but some people mean it. You have to wonder, is home the place or the person? Julia tracks the drama, half annoyed, half amused, until the rumor mill shifts into overdrive.
Stan culture moves fast.
Now you have Team Julia riding for personal growth, no matter the cost, and Team Brandon arguing in favor of loyalty, roots, and never abandoning the people who raised you. It's the most relatable war the internet's seen in ages. Every post about Julia's studio gets countered with a thread about Brandon's empty gaze. When did supporting your wife mean losing your identity? Is the question everyone throws around. The arguments go in circles, with strangers sifting through body language and old interviews like amateur detectives. A split-screen video of Julia dancing and Brandon staring into space pulls 500,000 views in 2 days. Everyone has an opinion, few have any answers. On Twitter and TikTok, the gloves are off. Hot takes get stuck to every update. Would you sell your childhood for someone else's dream? If Julia was a guy, would people say she was ambitious or a villain? The thought spirals until it takes on a life of its own. In the comments, people confess their own family drama, some siding with Julia for refusing to be controlled, others rallying behind Brandon, begging him to fight for what matters. Don't let bitterness from the past ruin your future. It feels like every stranger on the internet has projected their own struggles into this fight. Every little thing gets debated. Julia's Instagram captions about building my legacy are mocked in meme accounts. Screenshots of Brandon's LinkedIn update get dumped in group chats. Even innocent posts like Julia's smoothie bowl or Brandon's moody sunset walk turn into ammo. If he joins a group photo, someone says he looks lost. If he skips the shot, he's accused of not supporting her. In private, both confess to feeling bruised by the constant speculation. Their story isn't just theirs anymore. Every win or setback belongs to the crowd. Julia tries to focus on tangible victories, but something shifts after one particularly harsh comment thread. It isn't coming from strangers, but from someone she once called family. A screenshot circulates of Betty, yes, Brandon's mom, allegedly liking a post about fake influencers abandoning family values. It's petty, but in this world, even one click from Betty can ruin a week. Julia's supporters come for Betty, calling her toxic, but the silent treatment hurts more than any insult. Questions start to rack up, both online and inside their apartment. Would you trade old friends, family gatherings, years of history, for someone who tells you their love is enough? Or is love supposed to help you build something together, not require you to burn every bridge before you cross it? Social media is noisy, but inside 4 walls, the silence is worse. Julia and Brandon try to ignore the storm, but soon every argument feels like it's happening on stage. She worries about losing him to homesickness, to the hope that one more call home might fix what's broken. He worries about disappearing into her success. Fans start rooting for scandal. Speculation heats up. Divorce, reconciliation, surprise baby, dramatic returns. The more ordinary their days become, the more suspicious everyone gets. Julia gets offers for collabs she never imagined. Brandon, at his lowest, applies for a basic gym job and gets ghosted. This is what starting over looks like. Julia's best friend texts her. Julia wishes starting over felt a little less lonely. She films a video about adjusting to change and tries, badly, not to look defeated. Brandon's breaking point isn't dramatic. It's a quiet Sunday after another failed job interview. His dad calls, his mother's voice just audible in the background, but she won't come to the phone. His father says things are changing back home, hints that there might be room for forgiveness, maybe even a beginning, if only someone dares to ask. But forgiveness is a slippery thing when you've gone this far. Does Brandon want closure? Or does he want home? And would Julia let him go find it if the answer wasn't her? That night, Brandon finally tells Julia he's thinking of calling his parents again. She barely reacts, exhausted by the tension but still terrified that if he looks back, he won't come back at all. She throws herself into her studio, finding short-lived comfort in applause and attention. Behind closed doors, they both admit, never out loud and never at the same time, that loss can feel like freedom and freedom can feel like exile. Online, people make jokes about Brandon going missing in his own life, but in private, he's never felt farther from home. When Brandon reaches out to his dad, those old wounds split back open. What happens next isn't Julia climbing higher or Brandon falling deeper. This time, Julia makes the move nobody expected, and the next sacrifice lands at their door with a thud. Decisions aren't about escape anymore. They're about who gets to decide what home really means and what you're willing to risk for it. The air in that tiny condo feels heavier by the day. Julia burns with ambition, waking up every morning ready to outpace her past. Brandon wakes up wishing he could slow the world down, if only for a day, just to catch his breath. The more Julia speeds up, the more Brandon pulls away. Every text from a new dance client means another night she stays out, another meal eaten in silence, longing for someone to make the first move toward the truth. It doesn't happen in one big argument. It comes out in small, sharp jabs, built up from months of tension and years of swallowed words. Brandon asks, "Would you even care if I went back, if I just left?" Julia laughs it off, but everyone knows when laughter shakes, it's hiding something bigger. "Would you really go?" she asks. "Is a farm, a mother who can't stand me, and an old barn worth leaving this?" Brandon stares at the floor, quietly resenting the way freedom tastes so close and so out of reach. The ache of old soil calls to him, and Julia's dreams for their life together are starting to look like prison bars instead of keys. One night, they finally say it all at once. Julia says she's tired of feeling guilty for chasing what she wants, tired of pretending that her happiness fits inside someone else's comfort zone. Brandon says he's tired of feeling like a prop in someone else's show, tired of watching the dream that was supposed to save them turn into another thing he can't fix. The room dims as they measure their losses. Past promises to never let anyone come between them now sound almost naive. Julia finally admits, "I didn't come here to lose myself." Brandon whispers, "And I didn't come here to disappear." It's raw and ugly. Julia accuses him of living in the past, refusing to see the gift of reinvention for what it is. Brandon fires back, claiming she's become someone else entirely, a person who cares more about online applause than the real life they promised to build together. It should feel like progress, all this honesty, but inside, both wonder if confronting the pain has done anything except make it more real. Viewers see it too, those old vows, the social media declarations, every post where they swore nothing could break them now echo as irony. Julia's independence looks like victory to her fans. For Brandon, it feels more like exile. The comment section is a mess. Who is more right? Is Julia selfish or is Brandon stubborn? Is one of them brave, or are they both shaking at the thought of admitting defeat? The truth is both have sacrificed almost everything. Neither one trusts the other with the last pieces left. But for a moment, the balance shifts. Julia takes a long look at the man who crossed an ocean for her. She realizes how hard it must be to settle down in a place where everyone expects you to cheer for your own erasure. Brandon finally sees that Julia isn't just chasing clout. She's clawing for a life where she doesn't have to apologize for being hungry for more. There's empathy, but empathy alone can't pay the rent or fill the silence at midnight. The rift is real, and it's not closing. Then, in the middle of a week that feels like too many endings at once, Julia makes the choice nobody was expecting. She tells Brandon, "Book the ticket. Don't go alone. If you're going to face your mother, if you have to see what's left of your old life, then we do it together. No matter what happens, we landed in this together, and we walk out together." He stares at her, shocked, thrown off by her sudden willingness to return to ground zero. The power struggle shifts suddenly. It's not about who gets to keep the dream alive. It's about whether there's anything worth saving at the end of it all. At the airport, Julia's hand doesn't tremble as she hands over her passport. For Brandon, each step toward that gate feels like peeling open an old scar he worked so hard to close. Their story began with a leap of faith. Right now, it feels like falling, with no promise of what's waiting at the bottom. By now, you think you've seen it all. But the wildest confrontation is still loading, and the decision made at that airport is going to change everything. Julia throws the ultimate curveball at Brandon. The airport scene flips everything. Landing back in Virginia, their stomachs are tight, and their hands cling together not out of romance, but survival instinct. The family farmhouse is still there, looking both familiar and hostile, and the air seems thick with every word Betty never wanted to say. The tension snaps as soon as they step inside. Brandon's mother is her old self, holding court at the kitchen table, ready for a fight she's planned in her mind 1,000 times over. Julia stands next to Brandon, chin high, daring anyone to call her the enemy to her face. The conversation isn't warm. Betty unleashes everything she's bottled up, accusations, bitterness, and the line everybody's been replaying. "You broke this family." Brandon cracks first, finally saying what he couldn't say before. He loves his mother, but that love doesn't come with strings. He picks Julia, for once out loud, and without negotiation. Julia sees the tremor in his jaw, but doesn't break. The answer doesn't fix things. Betty sits back, silent, neither forgiving nor admitting defeat. The house is still split, and so is the family. The fight nobody wanted to have is finally all out in the open. For all the shouting, what matters isn't the outcome, but the risk it took to get there. Julia risked never being accepted, knowing that love sometimes means being willing to lose. Brandon risked guilt, regret, and the weight of being called ungrateful, but in the end, he picked the person who stood in the fire with him, not the one stoking it from a safe distance. Both lost something, and both gained something painful and real. If love only worked when you get to keep everyone happy, nobody would last a season. The craziest realization? Neither Brandon nor Julia won the old war, because the real prize wasn't approval, it was clarity. When they fly back to Canada, the air in the taxi is different. Quieter, but not tense. There are tears, but also release. The truth landed. They can't drag the past along and expect to build anything worth living for. Julia unpacks the last suitcase without theatrics. Brandon sets up a new shelf in the condo, framing a photo they once hid from each other. It's not a fairy tale, but it finally feels like a life. Red flags are everywhere, but suddenly make sense. Families who demand too much, partners who run too far, dreams that ask you to throw away your roots. None of them leave you whole. If you're watching for advice, here it is. The person willing to lose you for their comfort will never learn how to love you in your pain. Julia and Brandon's reunion is messy, loud, and honest, but it's not broken. It's the grown-up version of a happy ending. Not perfect, not painless, but actually earned. Maybe Julia took the bigger risk in leaving her whole world for the gamble of love. Maybe Brandon risked more by turning his back on the one person who defined him since he could walk. Both were brave in their own ways, but brave doesn't mean unbreakable. If you stripped away the social media noise, the camera crew, the threats hanging in every voicemail, you'd see two people who learned this lesson the hard way. Winning in a relationship isn't about who shouts loudest. It's about who stands beside you when the lights fade and tells you the truth you need, not the flattery you want. By the end of this ordeal, the couple isn't the same. Nobody could be. Julia's next studio class is packed, and this time, Brandon sits at the front, not as a prop but as a partner. The crowd doesn't cheer quite as loud, but the peace between them finally drowns out everyone else's opinions. When they leave the gym, Julia glances over at Brandon and jokes, "Next country, your pick." He laughs. It's a real laugh, not the polite kind. New boundaries are set, and old wounds are healing, slowly, imperfectly, but honestly. If you came here to see who broke first, the answer is both. If you came to see who picked up the pieces, this is your moment. These two are never going to have a boring reunion special, but they won't let anyone else write the end of their story for them. Because if you think Brandon and Julia are done causing chaos, next week's reveal is going to break the internet. The biggest secret has still not been told. Stay tuned for that bombshell. Want to know what Julia finds when she opens Brandon's suitcase the week after they land? You might think the drama peaked here, but trust me, there's one document at the bottom of that bag that could flip this relationship back on its head. Don't miss what's coming next.